Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Srinavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. So dear devotees, so we're going to read from Canto 4, Chapter 9, verse 36 and 37. Canto 4 titled The Creation of Fourth Order, Chapter 9, Dhruv Maharaj Returns Home, verse 36. Maitreya Uvacha Navai Mukundasya Padarvindyor Jojushastat Bhavadrusha Jana Vanchanti Tadha Dasyam Prite Ardham Atmano Yadrichaya Labdha Manaha Samriddhaya. Synonyms: Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued, Na, never. Why, certainly. Mukundasya, of the Lord who can give liberation. Padaravindoyo, of the lotus feet. Rajaha Jusha, persons who are eager to taste the dust. Tata, my dear Vidura. Bhavadrisha, like yourself. Jana, persons. Vanchanti, desire. Tat, his. Dasyam, servitorship. Rite, without. Ardham, interest. Atmanaha, for themselves. Yat richaya, automatically. Labdha, by what is achieved. Manaha, samriddhaya, considering themselves very rich. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidhura, persons like you who are pure devotees of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can offer liberation, and who are always attached to the honey of his lotus feet, are always satisfied in serving at the lotus feet of the Lord. In any condition of life, such person remain satisfied, and thus they never ask the Lord for material prosperity. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor of everything and anything within His creation, and the supreme friend of everyone. When one knows these things perfectly, he is always satisfied. The pure devotees never hanker after any kind of material prosperity. The karmis, jnanis, and yogis, however, endeavor always for their own personal happiness. Karmis work day and night to improve their economic condition. Jnanis undergo severe austerities in order to get liberation, and yogis also undergo severe austerities by practicing the yoga system for attainment of wonderful mystic powers. A devotee, however, is not interested in such activities. He does not want mystic powers or liberation or material propensity or prosperity. He is satisfied in any condition of life. As long as he is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's feet are compared to the lotus wherein there is saffron dust. A devotee is always engaged in drinking the honey from the lotus feet of the Lord. Unless one is freed from all material desires, he cannot actually taste the honey from the Lord's lotus feet. One has to discharge his devotional duties without being disturbed by coming and going of material circumstances. This desirelessness for material propensity is called nishkama. One should not mistakenly think that nishkama means giving up all desires. That is impossible. A living entity is eternally existent and he cannot give up desires. A living entity must have desires. That is a symptom of life. When there is a recommendation to become desireless, it is to be understood that this means that we should not desire anything for our sense gratification. For a devotee, this state of mind, nishpriha, is the right position. Actually, every one of us already has an arrangement for our standard or material comforts. A devotee should always remain satisfied with the standard of comforts offered by the Lord. As stated in the Ishopanishad, Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita. This saves time for executing Krishna consciousness. Verse 37. Akarnyatma cha mayantam samparetya yathagatam rajana shraddhade bhadram bhadrasya kuto mama. When King Uttanapada heard that his son Dhruva was coming back home, as if coming back to life after death, he could not put his faith in this message, for he was doubtful of how it could happen. He considered himself the most wretched, and therefore he thought that it was not possible for him to attain such good fortune. Purport. Dhruv Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, went to the forest for the penance and austerity, and the king could not at all believe that a small boy of such a tender age could live in the forest. He was certain that Dhruva was dead. He therefore could not fix his faith in the message that Dhruva Maharaj was coming back home again. For him, this message said that a dead man was coming back home, and so he could not believe it. After the Dhruva Maharaj's departure from home, King Uttanapada thought that he was the cause of Dhruva's leaving, and thus he considered himself the most wretched. Therefore, even though it was possible that his lost son was coming back from the kingdom of death, he thought that since he was most sinful, it was not impossible for him to be so fortunate as to get back his lotus son, uh, get back his lost son. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गं लङ्गायते गिरिं यत्कृपातवहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणम्। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So I would like to seek blessings from all the Vaishnavas. Please empower me so that I can correctly present this topic in accordance with our scriptural injunctions and can purify my mind, heart of myself and also those who are listening to it. I collected few points from the class given by His Holiness Bhanuswami Maharaj in September 2009. So as we can all see, this is a continuation of Dhruva Maharaj's topic. So after he attained the desired boons, now he was returning back and he was meditating on what was his actions, right? So as we know, Dhruva Maharaj was contemplating about how impure his morals were when Lord was present, even though he rejected them, but he regretted that he approached Lord, Supreme Lord, with such desires. That's the reason why later on in this purport, Maitreya Rishi actually praises Vidura because of his pure bhakti. He claims Vidura to be the supreme, one of the uh, devotees, the good devotees of the Lord. As we all know the story of Vidura, right? Even though he had material rejections, even though he was thrown out of the kingdom, but he never resisted. He accepted everything as a lila of the Lord, and that's a sign of a pure devotee. So, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains about the motivations, various motivations of different kinds of uh, people who actually uh, want to approach God, right? We have like Gyanis, we have yogis, we have rishis, we have bhaktas, right? So with the Gyanis and yogis, Prabhupada explained that they have a selfish desire hidden in it. It's only the bhaktas, they don't have any selfish desire because they surrender themselves completely into the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So Gyanis and yogis, so through the process of jnana and yoga, they make an attempt to eradicate the bija of material desire or activity, which is the avidya. So they want to cut down the avidya so that they cannot uh, incur any karma or suffering in this material world. So their motivation is that they want to get rid of this suffering. And their idea is that anyways, this material world is temporary and full of illusion. So they try to falsely identify or portray that this, I'm not this body, and they reject their body. And through this, they want to detach themselves completely from this illusion, or just by the help of jnana. On the other hand, yogis, they desire to calm their mind, or completely control their mind through the process of Ashtanga yoga, or in other words, they want to stop uh, the activities of the mind. When the activities of the mind are stopped, that means there is no material desires. That means there are no material desires. That means they can focus on something permanent. So these two processes actually, they destroy the subtle bodies in addition to karma, suffering, and they attain the mukti. And in this process, it also completely destroys one's ahankara. So, which is detrimental or ahankara in order to attain the complete oneness uh, with the Lord. But the problem with that is that we cannot. Prabhupada clearly explains that there is no way that we can actually stop desires, right? Because it is a natural function of the jivas. Therefore, mukti, which is actually entitled to stop all the desires and focus on just the oneness of the God, will not satisfy the jivas. Therefore, bhakti is recommended. In fact, Krishna himself says in which form he wants to be worshipped, and he clearly says to Arjuna that he wants to be worshipped in the Bhagwan form, right? Where they can have personal relationship with the jivas, and through which the jiva and the Lord both are satisfied. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada clarifies the definition of nishkama here. So nishkama, or the desireless, is that it has to be understood that we should not desire for anything which is actually meant for our personal or sense gratification. Instead, we should desire for something which is transcendental. Therefore, bhaktas, uh, what they do is they purify their desires to transcendental desires, and that too for the pleasure of the Lord. In other words, the bhaktas' desire are devoid of Maya. Therefore, the false identity is destroyed but they situate themselves in the real identity in relationship to Krishna. But here is the challenge. As we are all practicing devotees, we understand how difficult is to actually control or direct our material desires to a transcendental platform, right? Because we are in this material body, we are in this material, we have this material intelligence, we have this material mind, material senses. These are always trying to bring us to the focus of our own material needs rather than to focus on the transcendental needs, which is to please Supreme Lord. So what should we do? So Bhanu Maharaj explains that it is only possible to focus our mind and intelligence on Supreme Lord is only through by attaining, having our Atma to have enough strength, which is Shraddha. So in Nectar of Devotion, it's explained, right? We have text 14 and 15 from the first division. So Ado Shraddha Tatha Sadho Sangho Tatha Bhajan Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Syat Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata Atha Shaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Premabhyajayate Sadhakanam Ayam Premnaha Pradhurbhave Bhavet Kramah. So Rupa Goswami has clearly defined the chronological order of how bhakti propagates, right? First, it begins with Ado Shraddha. It begins with the firm faith. With the firm faith, one starts associating with sadhus or the pure devotees. Once the faith is taken even more further, he takes a spiritual initiation. And through spiritual initiation, his actual bhajan kriya starts. So he surrenders to spiritual masters, and with the initiation, he also makes an inquiry about how he can progress through the path of bhakti, to the mercy of the spiritual master and his and devotees, associate devotees. He starts making progress. So once he takes the bhajan kriya process, slowly his anarthas get diminished. And in this purport, as we read, Prabhupada clearly says that without destroying anartha nivritti, we cannot taste the devotional uh, service or the mellow of devotional service unto Lord Sri Krishna. So he compared this with honey, right? We cannot taste the honey without having all our anarthas being destroyed. So once the anartha nivritti is uh, done, next the jiva progresses to bhava stage, where he has natural affection for Krishna. And as this bhava gets more and more concentrated, prema uh, appears in his heart. And with prema, there are many stages, and Lord Krishna is placed, and Lord Krishna himself appears in before us. So this is the progress. And in order to achieve this, we have to have three things, right? Utsahat, Nishchayat, and Dhairyat. With these, only through the Utsah, Nishchayat, and Dhairya, we can actually cut through this material world and keep our spiritual desires alive and progress in spiritual path. So these were some of the points which I could understand. Please forgive me for any of my misinterpretations. And thank you for this opportunity.